Before we begin this video, if you're somebody that's not good with words, if you're somebody that says the wrong thing at the wrong time consistently, if you're somebody that potentially has a little bit of Aspergerish to your character, right? A little autism, because autistic people sometimes have a tough time knowing when to say the right thing or the wrong thing. If you're somebody that just isn't good with using your words, my recommendation wouldn't be to use like everything that I say here. My recommendation would be to just shut up. Just be quiet and let your silence create the mystery for you. All right? Because sometimes not everything is for everybody. With that being said, let's begin this. So how do we use words to play with a man's mind? All right? That's a topic that we're going to be talking about today. How do words play with a man's mind? So we're going to be talking about, one, the origins of the power of words on our minds. Two, how to use the origin and then the how. And then after that, we're going to have a reversal where when not to use this. All right. Like I said earlier, remember one example that I made was that if you're not good with words, then it's better off to not say nothing and let that create your mystery. So that's the structure of this video today. All right. So look, essentially, what you guys have to understand is words are used to stimulate your fantasies. All right. That's pretty much the whole point of using words. Why? Because before words, humans had to focus deeper to communicate with each other. Right? Because words allow you to just not really pay much attention. But before we had the ability to use words, we had to notice and focus on people's nonverbal a lot deeper. And that takes up more brain energy. But now, in the society that we live in today, we don't have to use too much energy to communicate. Because we have other means. We have our fingers. We could text. We can make videos. We don't have to really pay attention. We don't have to really use extreme nonverbal communication to express how we feel. Because humans and the human brain likes to save energy. So rather than observing the nonverbal, which takes up a lot of energy, you become efficient over time. It's easier to focus on words and then to notice deeper things like actions and nonverbals. It's easier to focus on words and then use those words to begin to have an active imagination. So what is the source of this focus on words? Where does that come from? You see, we use words to express our ideas. That's how we commonly use words. We use it the wrong way for the most part. We can't use the same words we use in normal life amongst each other. And we can't use the same words in seduction. They just don't go together. In real life, you learn to communicate in literal ways. In seduction, we use words differently, right? Because the key to the way that we use words differently is not that we say something different or that we speak differently. We just have a different perspective on the usefulness of words per se, right? Because it's not what you say, is what you don't say as well. You see, you want to see words as music, right? And music and noise. There is music and then there is noise. Music we love to hear, noise we do not like to hear. And the difference between music and noise when it comes to speaking is that a seducer uses words that please, uses words to make people happy and hopeful. They don't use words to debate or to argue or anything like that, or to make people defensive, right? We use words for promises, for flattery, right? We must see seductive words aimed, we must use words specifically aimed at a person's amygdala, their emotional brain, not to the rational part of their brain. We don't use words for rationality. We use words to inspire emotions for the most part, right? Their core emotions. And so rather than thinking of words as something to use to say the truth per se, right? We want to use words to intoxicate, to confuse, right? To lure, to seduce, to root out reason and introduce the irrational. Because then when you do that, that's when you get their attention. That's when people begin to focus on you and to fall in love with you as a leader or as a partner. So that's what we want to do. We want to introduce them to the irrational. So how do words affect the mind, right? How is it that words affect the mind? You see, words paint an image. You think of words as like a paintbrush, and the mind as the canvas, right? We use words to control people's imagination. Humans have a deep sense of to believe as children, right? And they seek believing in something, anything. Why? Because we have our frontal cortex that has believed in something for hundreds of thousands of years. You see, animals don't believe in fucking don't have a need to believe. But because we have our frontal cortex, which pretty much functions in creating fiction, what doesn't exist, religion, thinking of inventions, thinking of going places you never been before, imagining things you never imagined. That is what makes our minds so unique, right? And so we have had this hardware for hundreds of thousands of years, and so evolutionarily speaking, even though it hasn't been that much, we have a deep sense of to believe in something because of that, for the most part, because that's the only part of our brain that believes in something that doesn't exist, right? And let me give you an example of this deep need to believe in something, and how it is a human weakness which we could use to capitalize on our victims per se, which we will talk about how to use it, right? This is just an introduction. Imagine a dad telling his son a promise and looking at his son deep in the eye and saying, hey, little Tyrone, I'm kidding, little Timmy, I promise I'll be back from the grocery store later on, okay? And little Timmy's like, okay, Dad, I'll wait for you here. And he's like, yeah, turn around and don't look back. I'll be back. All right. What happens is that child he believes that promise. If you imagine being a kid and seeing your dad promising you something, right? That promise, he holds on to it. He practically immerses himself in that reality and holds on to those words. And as a result, that child will wait. That child will have almost like a form of self-discipline because there's a reward at the end of that tunnel. And so children have to have that belief in their parents. It's deeply ingrained to believe everything that their parents say because it's for their survival. And so people, whenever you promise them something, whenever you play on their imagination with words, they will regress as a child. They will be more compliant to you, and they will believe in it and imagine in what you're promising. And that's why we got to learn how to say the right things. So it's deeply ingrained in people. It's part of human nature, right? And so now that we understand that it comes from our childhood lack of dependency, or it comes from our insecurities to trust in someone, to believe in someone, or else we have the sensation that we'll die, we could then start to use words to create images. You see, words create images in people's mind, and what we imagine is what creates our expectations, right? And promises for good, because anytime somebody promises you anything, or anytime you expect something emotionally, you usually are imagining in your mind, right? Imagine I tell you, let's go to a party tomorrow. All of a sudden you're imagining being in the party, and then I tell you, never mind, we're not going to go to the party. All of a sudden you're mad that this image is not going to happen because there was emotions linked to the image. In fact, depending on how intense the emotion is, how intense that vivid vision is in your mind. And why is that? Because emotions are linked, because imagination is linked to emotion. Emotions is what makes people move. In fact, emotions are impulses to act based on what life throws at you. The Latin word for emotion means to move, essentially, right? Emotions come from exactly, right? Our emotional self, which is the part of our limbic system, our amygdala, is our irrational self. And that part of ourself is extremely pleasurable because it reverts us back to our ancient roots. It reverts us back to our childhood, right? Children are the most animalistic versions of humans. Adult humans are pretty much domesticated humans who have learned to disguise their animal nature to fit in. First of all, this type of thing will just make a guy go crazy for you. You got to be careful with this. It's almost like qualifying, complimenting you guys. For example, the most powerful words, the most powerful thing that has ever been used on me that actually worked and that actually made me go from liking the girl to loving her was this. And like I said, she was already acting distant, so you have to have a little bit of distance. You have to be a little cold with the person. That's just a fact. Because you can't use this. If he thinks you're fucking psycho and you say this, that's gonna turn him off. And that's how you look at him one day and you're like, man, we will make some really good looking kids. Wow. All right. And then change the topic. And the reason why you say that is because you're implanting the idea of being in a relationship, of having kids together, and then changing the topic. And then maybe you bring it up another 2 or 3 weeks from now, you bring it up. And I prefer you say that after sex, right? Because his hormones are moving in his body a little bit more. Oxytocin. And what that does is that he imagines it. I'm not kidding. If he kind of likes you and you say that and you being a little cold, he's going to imagine that. And as soon as a guy imagines a kid with you, people, you could almost call that a checkmate. I mean, seriously, you could call this, you could say that this is like a fatality. It's like a fatality. Like, that's how you end the game right there. All right. It's actually one of the most powerful things you can say to a guy. Seriously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys ever want to learn how to use your feminine energy to influence people, learn how to use your masculine energy to become more assertive, and also learn how to blend both energies to improve your dating life, your spiritual life, honestly, your relationship life, your family life, your career life, this is the course for you. If I had to make a course for my nieces, I have 2 nieces. One is 19, and one is 15. 16. Holy shit. Oh my God, he's a bad fucking uncle. He's a bad uncle. Get him. Shut up, Melissa. You should get this course, right? And this is the course that I will make for them. So, for example, watch the curriculum, right? In the first week, we're going to be showing you how to establish a strong masculine foundation without letting it hurt your feminine energy. This masculine foundation is a source of who you are, right? It's your bodyguard. Without this, whatever feminine energy you create will be destroyed by the outside, because your masculine is your shield. So we'll talk about goal setting. We'll talk about how to develop a serious attitude. We're going to be talking about how to use more logic, how to use more goal-oriented behavior. It's more how to be a man. Now the next one is how to embrace the feminine energy, right? This one would teach you about how to minimize excessive masculine traits, developing self-awareness, healing abundant feminine energy, regulating your emotion, mastering voice qualities and facial expressions, surrendering control, and allowing pain to be felt. This is honestly, this will supercharge, like Kaioken, your masculine energy. After that, we have femininity in the workplace, and how to be feminine in the workplace without letting people take advantage of you, and the nuances of how women on power should behave versus women who are subordinates in the workplace, and even the dress code. This is based on psychology, people. It's kind of insane. I'm actually excited about this one. The next week, we talk about navigating the labyrinth of male and female friendship, and this a lot of women find confusing, so we talk about that. And how to identify envious friends, how to identify the good friends, how to keep male friends, and how to keep female friends. Week 5, we talk about how to release the burden of the past and stop and destroy mental projections. This is actually really powerful. And then week 6, we talk about how to increase your observational power so that you could read people better. And we have a bunch of bonuses. The course starts at $99, and you guys can pre-order the course today at $69 before it goes out. If you're watching this, most likely I'm in the meditation retreat, so I will be praying for all of you guys. And just click on the description down below of the video. Right there, you'll see it, and you could pre-order that course. It's gonna be out by the end of next month or the beginning of February of March. One of the two, people, because I have a 10-day retreat to do, and I want to finish the course after the retreat, because I think the ideas are gonna be so much better. All right, man. I'll see you guys later. Pre-order, man. Oh, I'm closing the channel.